One, two, three. Three, two, four.
Hello everyone, I am BeBetterGamer and welcome to BeBetterGamer Wrestling. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. This channel is dedicated to wrestling video games, fueled by my love, passion, and obsession for them. Today I am playing WWF No Mercy on the N64, part of the legendary series of CAW wrestling games, and I am bringing you another one of my original CAW creations, and it is none other than the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Woo! I hope you're doing a woo as you watch this video. In the comments below, let's give a big woo, a shout out for a man who needs no introduction. I mean, if you're watching this video, not only are you a fan of wrestling games and probably a fan of the CAW games like No Mercy, but you know who Ric Flair is. I don't need to go at length to tell you that, but I will tell you how I made this call. I'll go over the appearance, but you can find the full call typed out in the description below. It's actually a link to a spreadsheet, so click on that link. And here we go. Body skinny 1, skin tone 4, head male 2. And you know, it's a very simple call. It's not really crazy, just it's basically what you want the head and face to be. For face I chose male 84, but there's a few other options you can go with. Hair short 3, and I went with the white hair color. If you're making a younger Ric Flair, go with the bleach blonde. I went with the white hair. Ring attire, short tights red. I mean, that was probably the color you saw the most with Ric Flair. Knee pad ones. Now, if you know Ric Flair, he never really technically wore knee pads. He always wore the knee pads, but he pulled them down on his shins. And then boots 08, red and 1. So it's hard to kind of recreate that here in the game. It's also hard to recreate it in, like, you know, action figures. Action figures, they always give him the knee pads right over the knees, but he always pulled the knee pads down. It's kind of like an old school thing. You were seen more as a tough wrestler if you didn't actually wear knee pads. So he pulled the knee pads down. His second attire is his black attire. All the outfits are very simple, but you can play with them a little bit. You know, with his black attire, sometimes you saw him wear black boots with like a red trim and red laces. So you can play around with that. His blue attire you can mess around with, where you can make the ring attire, the short tights, light blue, baby blue, and you can even keep the knee pads blue and the feet blue, the boots blue, or you can change it all to light blue. There's been a few variations on that I've seen where he's had the tights be baby blue and the knee pads be baby blue, but the boots are dark blue, or just the tights are baby blue and the knee pads and the boots are regular blue or dark blue. So you can mess around with that a little bit. Here is his purple attire. I've seen him mix around yellow and green, white and blue, purple and yellow. He's red and black, like I've mentioned before. A green, he's worn just a green variation of this outfit. You can just do green instead of purple. And this is dark purple too, I should mention, not regular purple. But you could also do regular purple if you want. He's also done sort of a variation of like the light purple with the dark purple. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. I kept it simple because I want to hear what you do with Ric Flair in the comments below. That's about it for the appearance. Nice and easy, quick and easy, like a ride on Space Mountain. That's right, I said it. So if you want to let me know what you did with your version of Ric Flair, please let me know in the comments below. Once again, in the description, you'll see a link to the full call typed out with the moveset, parameters, all that stuff. We're going to do a match right now between Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels, obviously a reference to their infamous match at WrestleMania, which was Ric Flair's final match in WWE, but technically not really his final match ever. More on that in a bit. And again, this isn't the perfect way to make Ric Flair. This isn't the best way to make Ric Flair. This is just how I decided to make Ric Flair, and I want to know how you made Ric Flair. There's also a bunch of great WWF No Mercy mods that have excellent texture packs with Ric Flair where they import his face. They also import the robe. The robe was kind of left out of WWF No Mercy. There's a few robe options. There's a lot of robe options actually in Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, another game part of the CAW series on the N64. And I believe there's a robe in WrestleMania 2000. I actually don't remember if there is. But Ric Flair was in WCW versus the World, or not, I'm sorry, not WCW versus the World, WCW NWO World Tour on the N64, which was the first American game on the N64, part of the Aki series. There was a PlayStation one, but for the N64, it was WCW NWO World Tour, and then Virtual Pro Wrestling 64, which was only released in Japan. He didn't make it into WCW NW Revenge, although technically he should have been in there. He should have been in WCW NW Revenge, but he was in a lawsuit at the time with WCW, specifically against Eric Bischoff and WCW. So while the lawsuit was going on, he was removed from TV, he was removed from any merchandise, anything like that, and that included the video game. But his moveset is pretty much in the game. I guess it was a carryover from maybe WCW NW World Tour, because even the strut taunt you saw me do in the beginning, that was in WCW NW World Tour. And there's another taunt, another strut taunt you'll see me do when I get my finisher that I don't believe was in World Tour. And I think they just added it in because, you know, eventually they probably did want to have Ric Flair in the game. When No Mercy came out, he was still with WCW, and we all know WCW would eventually close. It's very interesting, though, the way WWF acknowledges Ric Flair's time before WWF, specifically in WCW NWA. You know, they always talk about him being the 16-time world champion, but if you actually, like, count up his world title reigns, it can actually be 21-time world champion, or even 22 if you really want to get technical with it. A lot of his reigns when he was NWA world champion weren't officially recognized. Biggest example probably is his match with Tatsumi Fujinami, where he dropped the NWA title to Fujinami but then would regain it. That title reign wasn't officially recognized until a couple of years ago. Then the NWA all of a sudden decided, yeah, we're going to recognize that reign. Yeah, that time Harley Race and Ric Flair traded the title a bunch of times, yeah, we're going to recognize that all of a sudden. Don't know why they do that. Bobo Brazil is another one who wasn't officially recognized for a very long time as being NWA champion. But Ric Flair's many reigns aren't recognized for WWE. Another championship that's technically not recognized when they talk about his world championships is the WCW International World Heavyweight Championship, which was the name, the big gold belt, the infamous big gold belt that was part of WCW that Ric Flair brought over when he left WCW, calling himself the real world champion, which was my introduction to Ric Flair. When WCW split from NWA, the big gold belt became the WCW International title, which Ric Flair was the first holder of because he was the NWA champion at the time. Rumor has it they wanted him to drop the NWA title. WCW did not want him to drop the NWA title, so that caused the beginnings of the split. And he kept the big gold belt, and they called it the WCW International World title. He has 2 reigns under that one because he would eventually lose it to Rick Rude and then regain it when he unified it. He actually unified, he was the WCW champion at the time, and he unified it with Sting, who was carrying the big gold belt and was the WCW International champion. But then the big gold belt would be the WCW title. It's all very confusing, but you can find information about it online. I hope I did an okay job explaining it. Like I said, when he first came into WWF back in the day, in the 90s, that was my first introduction to him as a kid. Him showing up, Bobby Heenan proclaiming the real world champion is here, and him going on to win the 1992 Royal Rumble. It still is to this day my favorite Royal Rumble match. And probably one of my favorite Royal Rumbles of all time from top to bottom. It's a very fun Royal Rumble, a lot of good matches on that. The 1992 Royal Rumble with Ric Flair is easily my favorite Royal Rumble match. I still watch it like every year. I watch it once or twice. I definitely always watch it when Royal Rumble season occurs. Here we go, doing the taunt strut I was talking to you about. And we're about to see the Old Man Flop, which was Hogan's finisher in WCW NW Revenge, but really it was meant for Ric Flair. I mean, come on, you do the chop, and then the fall down, then he pokes you in the eye. And then for his back special, I gave him a victory roll. The moveset is loosely based on World Tour, but honestly, I kind of made it from scratch. I've seen so much Ric Flair. I've seen, you know, all his legendary matches, Terry Funk, Vader, Steamboat, which if you haven't seen his matches with Steamboat. You can find them all on the WWE Network. They are legendary for a reason. They surpass, in my opinion, you know, a lot of his other matches. But, you know, he's had such great matches with Savage, Bret Hart, and of course his infamous last match in WWE with HBK. Again, WWE talking about his career-ending match. He actually wrestled a little bit after that in 2010 and 2011 for NWA, or TNA, I should say, Impact Wrestling. Speaking of his last match in WWE, there's actually a great WWE defining moments action figure with Ric Flair that I need to add to my collection. Look at this. This is beautiful. And speaking of things I need to add to my collection, there's also a Ric Flair Funko Pop. While doing research for this video, I stumbled upon these two figures and I was like, I need to get these to my collection. If you want to add these to your collection, I've included links in the description below. They are Amazon affiliate links. So if you do decide to buy them using those links, I get a little piece of that transaction, and it's a great way to support the channel. There we go, making Shawn Michaels tap out. WWE revisionist history over there, beating Shawn Michaels instead of Shawn Michaels beating Ric Flair. But you know, it happens all the time in WWE. They always change around the history. His final match for reals was actually against Sting on a random episode of Impact Wrestling, which aired September 15, 2011. But his legacy will live on. Like I said in the beginning, he needs no introduction. Very influential to me as a young kid. And to this day, I'm sure 50 years from now, 100 years from now, when people are still talking about pro wrestling, whoever's around, whatever corporations are around in pro wrestling, one name will probably always still be discussed, and that is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Thank you so much for watching this video. Check out some of my other WWF No Mercy CAWs and Let's Plays. I stream this game as well as a bunch of other wrestling games on my Twitch channel, so make sure you follow me on twitch.tv/BeBetterGamer. Follow me on social media at BeBetterGamer. And until next time, you know what to do. Keep watching all the wrestling. Thanks again.